COBRA launched its all new King wedges, and here to talk about it, we've got Chad DeHart, Senior Product Line Manager. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is an exciting new wedge out for COBRA that I wanted to get your thoughts on this and just go over some of the new features, new specs, some of the even new options that you have within the wedge. If we can, I think the first thing with wedges especially we look at is feel, look, how it looks when we hold it. I like to talk about the design because we were looking at these a little off camera, and I think the shape looks awesome. There's some design that we'll show up close on here, some stamping that looks so cool. What went into the shaping and the design of this specific wedge?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, we buy golf products. I think first, attribute is on looks. You know, so it's either sitting at your local golf shop, it's sitting at your local retail store, and you got to make a wedge that appeals to that player, appeals to that golfer, and looks really good. And this iteration of our King wedge, we've actually gone back to a technology called MIM, which we've had some history of past products. But we worked with our factories over the last handful of years and been able to add some new alloys to MIMing that we weren't able to do 5-6 years ago. And one of the benefits of MIMing is we're able to add a lot of detailed artwork into the actual MIM file. So a lot of this hammer look that you talked about earlier, it's just part of the MIM file that we create that gets done and executed and looks very much like something that's very custom, ball peen hammered kind of textured look, but doesn't require all the manpower to actually execute that. Executes just in the MIM file itself. So very cool, I guess. Secondary, attribute or benefit of MIMing is that, but obviously MIMing first and foremost gets us a real accurate part. So in terms of your question, in terms of shaping, most wedges in the golf space are casted wedges.
Right.
Some know that, many I don't think realize that. But casting is inherently not the most accurate process in terms of making a golf club. Requires a lot of polishing, and your tolerances generally have to be a little bit more acceptable, a wider range. And especially when it comes to wedges, we're talking lie angles and high lofted golf clubs, and we know the importance of wedge fitting. And if your lie angle's off a couple degrees, I mean, you see a lot of starting lines change quite a bit. So in terms of just the accuracy of building a wedge, MIMing, we're seeing an improvement of 50% improvement over typical casting. So generally, if you set 10 wedge heads down and you look at all the different grinds and specs, your MIMed heads are going to be a lot more accurate than your typical casted wedge. So all benefits for the golfer looking for accurate parts and accurate measurements. It's a good process to use,
especially in a club like a wedge, where we're probably changing it out more than the rest of our clubs, right?
We should. Many don't, but I mean, if you're a very serious golfer and you're playing a couple times a week, I mean, a wedge change at least once or twice throughout the year is definitely recommended. Yeah, because I see a lot of wedges out there in the wild that man, heck, I see some trusty rusties from way back in the day still lingering in some bags out there, and
not really doing their job anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the wedges, obviously we're looking for creativity around the greens, whether that's through grinds or the number one thing is spin performance.
Sure.
And yeah, you definitely want to make sure that those grooves are fresh, make sure that we're letting that debris escape, obviously in wet conditions, making sure that we're still making good surface contact with that golf ball, and if you got a worn wedge, you're seeing stopping power increase in distance. You're not stopping as fast real quickly. So it's very important to make sure that we're changing those wedges throughout the season.
With the King wedge, you just mentioned grinds. There are a couple of grind options that we wanted to go over here, and there's a new one in this line as well, right? Yeah,
we actually have two new ones in the line this year. So just going through here, we have a new D grind, which is it's the one grind in our line that doesn't have the traditional COBRA scallop in the back or that little that notch. So this is a very traditional kind of teardrop, classic type of grind, definitely on the higher end of the bounce spectrum. So for that golfer that's maybe a little bit more steep or a little bit over the top, that just needs help getting the blade out of the ground quicker and faster, it's a great option for them to kind of try out for this type of grind. And then moving on from there, we have our W grind, which is in years past we'd called the wide low grind.
Okay.
It's the widest sole in our lineup, one of the lowest bounces in our lineup actually. It's a good little utility knife. So because of its wide sole, as we open up that blade, the effective bounce actually goes really, really high. So I guess your measurement from bounce in a square driver's seat position is low, but if you get in softer conditions where you need a little relief, that wide sole is going to benefit you by giving you that additional bounce. I mean, you'll probably see something closer to 16 degrees of bounce as you open up that blade, and that's just based on the sole width and bringing that bottom point further back in the sole. So good little utility knife there. Our V grind, which is probably the workhorse in terms of sales and volume that we do, is our versatile grind. We do a lot of this grind out on tour. Exactly what it is. I mean, we do a nice blend, relief, heel, and toe, to really exactly what it is, to be versatile around the greens, play out of a lot of different conditions. So like I said, this has been the workhorse, but I know we're really excited about our new T grinds. Working with athletes out on tour, Ricky and Gary and Justin Suh, and we found this grind that we were consistently doing for them. And we wanted to replicate that and bring it to market. And you know, we were talking earlier that the better player has been looking to COBRA the last 5 to 8 years, just with our player forging irons. And we really didn't have a wedge or a grind in the lineup that really fit that caliber of player that's got control of their bottom point. You know, wants the ultimate versatility in terms of opening up that blade, and you know, whether that's through the grass or the sand. So we're happy that, you know, working with our tour players, we came up with this grind, and we're now excited to get it in the hands of golfers all around.
What was the feedback from the tour guys on the T grind in terms of look, feel, and then performance?
Yeah, so in terms of the T grind, a lot of tour guys, you know, I would say most golfers, they should all go through a wedge fitting.
Sure.
Because there's not one grind that's universal for all.
Right.
Everyone delivers it differently. Everyone has different low points in their golf swing. But generally for this type of grind, the tour players are looking for some low bounce. You know, having ultimate, heel and toe forgiveness, and having those good blends and radius and grinds off that for relief. But what we did on the T grind is added a kind of a little soft ski area, soften the leading edge. So even though it is low bounce, softening that leading edge, you guys will see here, just gives you a little more relief. We actually measure it as a bounce, a separate hole, separate bounce angle. But being low grind, the leading edge isn't going to dig.
Sure.
So you can get creative, you can get aggressive on those tight lies that guys and gals are seeing out there on tour, that are a little bit in a firmer condition. But it's also going to benefit the average golfer too, that, you know, might still have that tight lie, but it might be a little bit softer. That softening of that leading edge is definitely going to help. So yeah, it's been a home run. Guys are testing it right now, and I think we're going to see a lot of this style of wedge in players' bags this season.
And that's still pretty versatile too. We can open the face up, we can get creative.
Yeah, that's probably the most versatile grind we have in our lineup. You know, V used to be the most versatile we had in our lineup. This T is going to be the ultimate versatility weapon we can offer to golfers out there.
Okay. And then we were talking a little bit off camera too about trying to control flight.
Yeah.
Right, with our wedges. What did you do with these wedges to help with that?
Yeah, so we got our flight window technology, which is just a progressive CG story. So you'll notice we progress the thickness of the top line throughout the loft range. Typically, you'll see the biggest impact or the biggest visual change on your 58 and 60 degree wedges. Okay. Where the top line we've thickened up, which is just going to raise the CG height a little bit. And what it's doing is dynamically trying to help flight that golf ball into a little lower flighting window that still gets you high spin, but just penetrates a little bit better. Generally, you know, high lofted wedges, they tend sometimes to balloon and go up, and we lose some distances just based on delivery and launch angle. And we're just doing everything we can to just help golfers just keep a more consistent launch performance. So.
Sure. You mentioned the tour players are testing these right now.
Yeah.
What has been the feedback? I'm always curious with wedges because those guys are so dialed in. They can feel it in their hands, even just the tiniest little millimeter of something is off, they can feel it. What's been the feedback so far with these? Are they pretty happy with what they're seeing?
Yeah, players, they love the way they feel. You know, we touched on mimming earlier, and one of the benefits of mimming is you start with, much like 3D printing, you start with a metal powder and you have a polymer binder that you mix together that is what forms these pellets that you put into the metal injection molding machine. During the process, so you have to get this polymer binder out of the actual head, which goes into a sinter machine, a really high heated oven. And we heat these heads up to almost 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So super high temperatures, which gets us really tight grain flows in terms of the alloy construction. So golfers can expect when you hit these, it's going to feel much like a forging, but the benefit for the golfer, it's not going to be at the price point of a typical forging. So as you know, most clubs out on tour are forged products, and the testing that we've done thus far with our better players hitting these King wedges, a lot of them said, man, these feel really, really soft. It feels good contact. Obviously the new grinds, they're being well received. The T grind is going to be a home run out there for them, and just checking all the boxes of what tour guys are asking for.
Yeah, tour guys and now the average player as well with the all new King wedges from COBRA.